So it really came down to if I wasn't 100% convinced that I shouldn't do it.
Former Governor Larry Hogan announces he will not run for president in 2024. Fox News is examining the decision and what the future could hold for him. The debate over crime continues in Annapolis as lawmakers push several bills that would limit jail time for juveniles or prevent them from being convicted at all, while critics are accusing some state Democrats of actually helping criminals. And Fox 45 News continues to follow yesterday's deadly explosion in Frederick. What we know about it tonight.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 10.
We begin tonight with some breaking news out of Baltimore County. Police just confirming a murder in Catonsville. It happened around noon today along Wilkins Avenue. Police say officers responded to reports of an assault when they found one victim with a gunshot wound. Police not releasing any more details about the victim nor suspects, saying the investigation is ongoing. Good evening, everybody. I'm Mary Bubala. Reaction pouring in from across the nation tonight as former Maryland Governor Larry Hogan announces he will not run for president in 2024. He made the announcement on CBS's Face the Nation this morning.
You were torn.
I was torn.
Toughest decision of your political career?
Absolutely toughest decision I ever made.
Well, a political expert weighs in on the former governor's decision and what the future might hold for Larry Hogan. After months of speculation, it's official.
It was a tough decision, but I've decided that I will not be a candidate for the Republican nomination for president.
Former Maryland Governor Larry Hogan will not run for president in 2024.
I was struggling because my heart was telling me to run. My head was telling me no, that this does not make sense for a whole host of reasons.
Political analyst John Deedy says he's not surprised.
He was polling in 1% and 2% in the national polls. This is a Donald Trump Republican Party. Kelly Schultz couldn't even get the nomination for governor, his hand-picked chosen successor.
Deedy pointing to a recent poll of Maryland voters from the firm Coefficient, showing the governor polling third in the presidential race behind Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and former President Donald Trump. Hogan has been an outspoken critic of Donald Trump. He says he decided not to run because he knows he hasn't been polling well, and he was concerned his campaign could give the former president an edge.
Right now you have Trump and DeSantis at the top of the field. You're soaking up all the oxygen, getting all the attention, and then a whole lot of the rest of us in single digits. And the more of them you have, the less chance you have for somebody rising up.
While some people are encouraging Hogan to run for Senate in Maryland, Deedy says he thinks it would be hard for Hogan to beat longtime Senator Ben Cardin. Instead, he thinks Hogan should focus on growing his voice in the Republican Party.
I think the best thing for him to do is stay active in Republican politics, then see how things play out with Wes Moore. If he does not have a successful governorship, he could easily run again.
Maryland law states no one can serve as governor for more than 2 consecutive terms. But after a term off, Hogan could run again. In the meantime, Deedy says we can expect to hear more from the former governor as the race for the White House continues.
I think what he's probably going to do is try to find some Republicans he can endorse for other offices, Congress, Senate, state races, and things like that. I think in time he'll find a candidate to endorse.
Well, the former governor's announcement getting lots of mixed reaction, of course, on social media. Let's take a look at what some people are saying. This one says, sorry, you are not running. I'm not of your party, but would have been glad to cross the line for your integrity and experience. This one, Governor Larry Hogan, you're not a Republican, so we don't care what you think. You know you have no chance, but decided to make it about you anyway. This one, Governor Larry Hogan, dozens of us are sad about this announcement, and maybe one more. Governor Larry Hogan, good because you are not a Republican. So lots of mixed reaction out there. Well, right now, there are 3 major Republican candidates in the 2024 campaign. Former President Donald Trump, former United Nations Ambassador Nikki Haley, and entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy. More than a dozen Republicans are undecided about a presidential run, including former Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson. On CNN's State of the Union this morning, he says he admires Hogan and believes more voices speaking out against Donald Trump is a good thing for the Republican Party.
He did say he wanted to avoid a multi-car pileup. I got a kick out of that reference, and I actually think that more voices right now in opposition or providing an alternative to Donald Trump is the best thing in the right direction.
Hutchinson says he will make an announcement in April if he decides to run for president. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis hasn't formally announced, but he's believed to be one of the top Republican candidates. Well, we want to hear from you. Assuming President Joe Biden wins the Democratic nomination, who should be his top challenger in 2024? Donald Trump, Ron DeSantis, or somebody else? So far, 50% of voters say Donald Trump. Head to foxbaltimore.com/vote. Click on the Pulse tab to weigh in. Well, the debate over how to deal with juvenile crime continues in Annapolis. In just the first 3 months of the year, we've seen teenagers accused of committing a number of violent crimes, including a robbery in Glen Burnie on Friday, a police chase in Anne Arundel County last month that ended in police finding 5 teenagers with guns and drugs, and the murder of 16-year-old Deontay Dorsey outside the Edmondson Village Shopping Center in January. Well, now one lawmaker is pushing for a bill that would make felony murder illegal for anyone under the age of 25. Fox 45's Vincent Hill joins us with a closer look at this bill. Vincent?
Yeah, Mary, so it's called the Youth Accountability and Safety Act, but opponents of the bill say the only ones it provides safety for are criminals.
With over 40 homicides for the year in Baltimore, Democratic lawmakers in Annapolis are proposing a bill to prevent charging anyone under 25 with felony murder, which happens when someone is killed during a felony crime like robbery.
This undermines the principles of our criminal justice system by severely penalizing people for crimes that they did not commit nor intend to commit.
House Bill 1180, the Youth Accountability and Safety Act, is sponsored by Delegate Charlotte Crutchfield of Montgomery County. Supporters of the bill say the brain is not fully developed until the age of 25, therefore current law is unfair.
As applied to this age group, felony murder makes no sense. It is unjust and should not be the law.
Maryland Secretary of Juvenile Services Vincent Schiraldi and Senator Jill Carter, who sponsored a companion bill, agree. Fox 45 pressing Senator Carter about that issue in Annapolis.
This guy's a parent with 2 adult kids, both in their 20s now. I know by 17 they knew right from wrong.
I think your kids probably had good parenting, and I want you to think about this. We don't allow children under 18 to do a myriad of other things under the law.
But opponents say being soft on crime because of age is an excuse, not a solution.
There's a lot of stuff going on that we're giving mixed messages regarding the issue of age and the maturity of the child to make decisions.
Republican delegate Susan McComas of Harford County pointing to legislation backed by Democrats that doesn't question mental capacity.
Letting children vote earlier and earlier, letting them get hormone-inducing drugs to change their sex.
She says if House Bill 1180 passes, it will produce more criminals, not reduce crime.
If this bill passes, you're going to have kingpins, you're going to have gangs use the juveniles to do their dirty work.
Law enforcement officials like Harford County Sheriff Jeff Gaylor agree.
I think we're going to see higher crime with this bill. I could say that about many of the bills the last couple of years out of Annapolis.
And this isn't the first time Delegate Crutchfield tried to get something like this passed. Back in 2021, she introduced House Bill 385, which looks to say that children cannot be charged with first-degree murder. That bill did not gain much support. For now, we're live in Baltimore. Vincent Hill, Fox 45 News.
Vincent, thank you. Meanwhile, Republicans are pushing the Violent Firearms Offender Act again, the same one Governor Hogan pushed for years. There will be a hearing on the legislation on Friday. It would crack down on repeat offenders, especially repeat gun offenders. The plan passed the Senate the last 2 years, but stalled in the House. Fox 45 News pressed lawmakers on why they think this time is different.
What's the difference between last year and this year? Well, people are starting to lose elections.
We're here calling on our colleagues to take action, to join us in taking action to stop violent crime. How much worse is it going to have to get for the General Assembly to act?
What you've seen in the city of Baltimore is they have thrown out a prosecutor that refused to hold people accountable.
Well, that brings us to our question of the day. Whose crime plans do you trust more to reduce the level of violence? Democrats or Republicans? So far, 97% of those who voted say Republicans. Go to foxbaltimore.com/vote to weigh in. You can also make your voice heard. Scan the QR code right there on your screen to contact your local state delegates and senators. It'll take you to our website where we have listed phone numbers and email addresses. Now, one of the lawmakers we spoke with, State Senate Minority Whip Justin Reedy, pointed to the results of the Chicago mayoral race as proof voters want to see a tougher stance on crime.
We just saw the mayor of Chicago thrown out of office because she's not addressing violent crime.
Many political experts saying Mayor Lori Lightfoot lost her re-election campaign because of her so-called soft-on-crime policies. Some say that should serve as a warning sign for other Democratic mayors across the nation. Today, New York Mayor Eric Adams, a former police officer, says he doesn't believe it's an indictment of Democratic mayors, but of all leaders, regardless of party.
Is what happened to her a warning sign for you here in New York?
To the contrary, I think it's a warning sign for the country. Public safety is a prerequisite to prosperity, same as Chicago, like New York, and many of our big cities across America.
Well, here in Baltimore, political observers say what happened in Chicago could indicate what's to come for Mayor Scott.
When he ran for office, he promised to get under 300 murders, and we're nowhere close to that so far. And I think that he's got to try to show that progress is being made. I would tie myself as much as possible to Ivan Bates, because right now, everyone is following Ivan Bates's lead on crime.
Political experts say the frustration with current leaders and crime has already been reflected in the polls. This past election, more than 70% of Baltimore voters decided to remove City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby. An update now on the deadly tanker crash and explosion in Frederick yesterday. All lanes of US 15 are now back open. They were closed for several hours yesterday because of the fiery crash. Maryland State Police say the tanker truck was carrying a flammable liquid, but they haven't said exactly what that liquid was. Authorities are still working to determine what caused the crash. They say the driver of the truck was the only one killed. No one else was hurt, but 6 homes and 5 other vehicles were heavily damaged. The Maryland State Police crash team is leading this investigation. Video of the police chase that led to the deadly crash and building collapse is raising questions about police chase protocol. Still ahead, a former FBI agent gives some insight.
Capitol Hill preparing to dig deep into some tough questions about the origins of COVID-19. I'm Christine Frizzell with what's already unfolding and what could lie ahead.
And after a nice and warm start to the week, we'll see our temperatures get lower and lower over the next few days. I'll let you know how long this cooler trend lasts and when to expect the next weather maker coming up in my full forecast.
President Joe Biden marked the 58th anniversary of the 1965 Civil Rights March known as Bloody Sunday in Selma, Alabama today. During that march, state troopers clubbed protesters marching for voting rights. And those images of violence from that day shocked the nation and bolstered support for the Voting Rights Act. Well, ahead of today's march, President Biden renewed a push for voting protections, claiming the conservative Supreme Court gutted the Voting Rights Act over the years.
Selma is a reckoning. The right to vote, to have your vote counted, is the threshold of democracy and liberty. With it, anything's possible. Without that right, nothing is possible. And this fundamental right remains under assault.
President Biden's stop in Selma comes as he and fellow Democrats struggle to pass their own sweeping voting rights measures with dim prospects of passage in a Republican-controlled House. Well, tonight, a difficult road ahead in the quest to find out how and where the coronavirus began. While we may never have a definite answer, there is a new movement to find answers and take the politics out of the equation. Christine Frizzell reports.
2 years before the pandemic began, U.S. State Department cables warned of serious issues inside the Wuhan Institute of Virology, including a breach in safety protocols and a lack of properly trained technicians, as high-risk research on bat coronaviruses was being conducted, with plenty of questions, which even today remain unanswered.
I would be focusing on the activities in and around that lab and deriving from that what steps we need to take going forward to make sure that we get better security around high-risk research so that if this did come out of a lab, it's not going to happen again.
With the Department of Energy and the FBI appearing to endorse the lab leak theory as the most likely genesis of COVID-19, efforts are being stepped up to find out more.
It is now good to see that the Department of Energy has come to the same conclusion that my State Department did years ago, that this leak came from a laboratory in China, and then Xi Jinping foisted this virus upon the world.
Accusations of China's lack of transparency and interference in the investigations are mounting.
If this virus had originated virtually anywhere else, you would have had world scientists there.
The obfuscation on the part of the Chinese Communist Party has been totally unacceptable. It's like trying to investigate a murder after 3 years.
A pair of op-eds laying out the need for investigations to continue. The Washington Post's Josh Rogan also emphasizing this is not a political matter. It's a crucial issue of national security and public health. Just a few days ago, a bill passed the Senate asking the government to declassify intelligence related to COVID's origins. This as the House Select Subcommittee on the coronavirus pandemic looks into these questions in its first hearing in the week ahead.
Really what we are trying to do is to follow the breadcrumbs, if you will, look at the forensics of what took place. Obviously, this is one of the more serious things that has ever happened to mankind.
With hopes more information may help prevent another pandemic in the future. I'm Christine Frizzell reporting.
It was a gorgeous end to the work week with temperatures reaching the 60s, but for the rest of the week, we're going to see lower numbers. Right now, we sit at 49, and it's not feeling too bad outside. We have nice and light winds. Across the state, temperatures are in the 30s, 40s, even the 50s. 52 in Annapolis, La Plata a little higher at 54, and then we have the 30s in Elkton and in Oakland. Overall, not too bad. Our temperatures, though, are going to fall to the 30s. You will want the layers tomorrow morning, but by the afternoon, we are in for a nice day. We'll stay nice and dry. There's not much happening around our area, but we are keeping track of this cold front. That will be our next weather maker, leading to showers not during the day, but during tomorrow night. As we head into the morning, notice we wake up to a few clouds. Then we'll have a little more sunshine by the afternoon as our temperatures reach the mid to upper 50s. Then overnight, our next weather maker arrives, and that's going to lead to a few areas of rain. This will be short-lived, and by the time you wake up and you head out for your commute, we're back to dry weather and temperatures starting off in the 30s and 40s. By the afternoon, we'll have plenty of sunshine. Temperatures not as high. It's also going to be a little bit of a breezy day, but quiet weather after that. We'll enjoy another nice few dry days, but then our rain chances pick up over the weekend. Friday, we have the chance for a few spotty showers. Expect more rain on Saturday, and then on Sunday, we do stay mostly dry. 35 for the low temperature with mostly clear skies. Then tomorrow, our high temperatures top off around 56 with plenty of sunshine, and this is still above average. However, it's going to feel more like March as we head into the next few days and our temperatures start to drop. 53 on Tuesday, 51 on Wednesday, low 50s again on Thursday, 40s with rain on Friday. Then we finish out the weekend in the 50s. Mary?
Thank you. A celebration of all things handmade in Baltimore. Still ahead, we take you to the American Craft Made Marketplace. But first, a somber reminder of the deadly violence in Baltimore City, why the Guardian Angels moved its memorial banner of the lives lost to violence. A new reminder in West Baltimore of the 335 people who lost their lives to violence across the entire city last year. The Guardian Angels hung the sign showing each of the victims' names at their headquarters in downtown Baltimore at the start of the year. Now they have brought it to a new location in West Baltimore.
There's a lot of people in this very neighborhood are on that wall. So the reason we wanted to put it there is because we want the people here to look at it and see and feel what is going on in that community, to where perhaps they want to take and make a change. They want to stand up and say, nah, enough's enough.
The Guardian Angels say the banner will stay in West Baltimore for about a month, and then they'll move it to another community after that. Well, questions continue to swirl about a police chase that ended in a deadly crash and building collapse last month. Many law enforcement experts Fox 45 News has spoken with say they believe the chase should have never happened in the first place. Fox 45's Taylor Stewart talked with a former FBI agent about those claims.
Should this pursuit have happened in the first place? That's the question analysts are asking now as they look back at the traffic stop that started it all.
Just hit a car, collapsed building just fell on it north and west.
Both drivers losing control. They slam into a brick home on the corner of East North Avenue and North Wolf Street. It collapsed, killing a 54-year-old Baltimore man and injuring 5 others, some of whom were trapped beneath the rubble. The department's Independent Investigations Division is looking into whether this pursuit should have happened in the first place.
If you have a felony chase, or if you had an individual who had committed several felonies or have killed some individuals or is likely to kill again, then you have to stop that individual, because whether you chase them or not, they intend to harm someone else. And then a decision has to be made by supervisors and commanders who should be monitoring these calls.
According to Baltimore police, this began as a traffic stop, and the vehicle at the center of this pursuit was reported stolen. Baltimore police pursuit policy prohibits cops from chasing stolen vehicles if that was, in fact, the initial violation.
Obviously, there was some radio communication from someone saying cut the chase off. You have to know when that took place, how close it came to the time that the accident occurred.
Powers says investigators will have to piece together a timeline of what exactly happened that February 8th evening to determine if it holds up against the city's policy on pursuits.
We can't hit rewind on this particular situation. We do have to look at it for discipline. We do have to look at it for policy and consistency. But then on the other hand, what the citizens are most concerned about is that civilians don't get injured again.
Taylor Stewart, Fox 45 News.
A whistleblower exposing alleged medical abuse of prisoners in Georgia. A closer look at her claims in tonight's Full Measure report. A medium security prison in Georgia is under scrutiny tonight after a whistleblower exposes alleged medical abuses on prisoners there. Full Measure Shell Atkinson reports.
I was a mid-cart nurse, I was a sick-cart nurse, I was a triage nurse.
Dawn Wooten worked at the Irwin County Detention Center in Ocilla, Georgia, a private medium security prison. The prison had a contract with the federal government to detain illegal immigrants. And when COVID-19 hit in 2020, Wooten says what she saw exposed serious lapses, poor practices, and startling revelations.
I remember talking to a supervisor and seeing the forms that needed to be filled out, sent to the health department. They were not being sent to give an adequate number of COVID positive inmates that we had inside the facility. The medication forms and the inmate forms that were supposed to be sent were being shredded. There was a colleague of mine that was shredding the documents inside the facility.
She says that colleague, another nurse, told her they were only shredding duplicate records. Not true, says Wooten. Wooten also discovered, she says, other COVID forms being withheld from reporting to the local health department. But Wooten's most startling discovery was yet to come. It came when women inmates at the Irwin County Detention Center began approaching her, asking about mysterious surgical procedures they were getting that they did not fully understand.
They would leave, go get treatment, and they would return back to the facility to be monitored. And they realized that there was invasive procedures that were done.
She says a doctor was performing life-changing surgeries on the women that they say they didn't want or properly consent to.
Hysterectomies and tubal ligations and tubal removals, ovary removals, DNCs.
How many women did you know of that this impacted?
We're talking 30 to 50.
Ultimately, Wooten says she decided to risk her career and go public with what she'd learned. She filed multiple complaints with federal bodies. A Senate committee in November concluded that female detainees at the Irwin County Detention Center appear to have undergone excessive, invasive, and often unnecessary gynecological procedures. The federal government did act on Wooten's information. The Department of Homeland Security stopped using the Irwin County Detention Center to hold illegal immigrants and ended its contract. As for Wooten, she claims she's been blacklisted and gone from working 12-hour shifts to food stamps and welfare.
What I saw was the inhumane treatment of human beings and lives being decisions made for without consent. And what I did, I would do again.
Since Wooten spoke out, dozens of women have sued, claiming to be victims of unwanted medical procedures at the Irwin County Detention Center. For Full Measure, I'm Cheryl Atkinson.
And you can watch Full Measure Sundays on Fox 45 at 10 a.m. Well, don't you love a good road trip? Maryland men's basketball would rather hang out at home. Coming up next, how the Road Terps regular season finale came down to a final shot. Well, the American Craft Made Marketplace spent the weekend in Baltimore. The celebration of all things handmade wrapped up today. Photojournalist Casey Fair shows us what it's all about.
Coming to the marketplace is a multi-sensory experience. You can expect to see beautiful objects.
And how much is psychology? Those are 35.
With stories.
There's so many different birds. They have this urban attitude that I absolutely love.
These are pieces of art that you can have in your home, that you can wear.
It is very relaxing to do this.
And also pieces of art that make wonderful gifts.
It is definitely celebrating the artists, the artisans, people that use their hands and are very dedicated to their art.
So expect to see just a wide array of beautiful things.
And we just want to bring joy to people when they come see our work.
Beautiful. Well, that's all the news at 10. I'm Mary Bubala. Thank you for watching. Morgan Atzett and Rocco DeSangro join us now with Sports Unlimited. Morgan and Rocco.
Thank you, Mary. Coming up tonight on Sports Unlimited, March has officially arrived. Local hopefuls plan for seeds to extend seasons and NCAA tournament firsts.
Maryland men were going for a double bye in this week's Big Ten tournament. How the Terps fell way outside a 2 seed.
What is going on with Maryland basketball? One more loss on the road to close out the regular season has fans wondering just how far this team can go.
On the high school side, BCL tourney time, Mount St. Joseph trying for the repeat.
And it's a big week ahead for the future of Ravens football. Get a long-term deal done with Lamar before Tuesday's deadline, or use that franchise tag. That and more coming up next on Sports Unlimited.
March is in full swing. Conference tournaments underway. Delaware and Towson meeting in D.C. for the CAA quarterfinal. This just wrapped up. All Tigers, who are now rolling to the semis tomorrow night, 86-60. Hey, everyone. Welcome to Sports Unlimited. I'm Morgan Atzett. He's Rocco DeSangro. Maryland got an early taste of March buzzer beaters, but on the wrong end at Penn State.
Yeah, Morgan, the Terps' road woes continued as Maryland was battling for a Big Ten tournament double bye. It just did not happen, as well as friendly seeding come March Madness. Let's check it out. Number 21 ranked Terps facing Penn State in the final regular season game of the year. Tale of two halves for this team. In the first, Jameer Young buries the triple to put Maryland up 12. He had a game-high 26. Terps led by 16 at the break, but this one got away from the Nittany Lions. Looked to close the gap, and they did. Julian Reese putting Maryland back on top with 19 seconds to go. Last chance for Penn State. Time ticking down. Cameron Winter at the buzzer gets it to go. Terps lose a heartbreaker. 65-64 the final score. With a win, there was a chance that the Terps could have grabbed a 2 seed. That's not the case anymore. Terps, the 6 seed. They get the winner of Minnesota and Nebraska on Thursday night.
On the women's side, those Terps are in a holding pattern. Maryland was knocked out of the Big Ten tournament semifinals yesterday by now tournament champ Iowa. So now Brenda Frese and company wait on Selection Sunday next week. Number 5, Maryland, most likely not a 1-seed option anymore. Even with Indiana and LSU losses in conference tourney semifinals over the weekend, those programs have less losses. But a 2-seed sounds nice with some home court advantage.
I think seeding is important. I'm not going to say it makes your route easier to the Final Four, but it definitely helps your seeding. So, yeah, but at the end of the day, no matter our seeding, we still going to have to play 40 minutes, and anybody could be beaten. So we're still going to have to play and compete like we do every day.
UMBC in its first America East semifinal in 8 years at Vermont, looking to punch that automatic ticket. Keila Davis, coast to coast. She led the Retrievers with 21. UMBC, though, playing catch-up most of the game. The Retrievers did get within a bucket in the fourth quarter, but Vermont moves on to the finals, 75-63.
When it comes to basketball history and next-level talent, look no further than the Baltimore Catholic League. The tournament championship game is one players and coaches strive to get to all season long. 2 teams squaring off for all the marbles, St. Maria Goretti and Mount St. Joe. Mount St. Joe going for its 2nd straight BCL tournament title, and Pat Clatchy's squad would get it done behind 17 points and 21 rebounds from Amani Hansberry. Monster double-double. Mount St. Joe wins the BCL championship 59-50.
The senior class at Towson, and Pat Scarry has had them for a while due to extra COVID years and red shirts, has one goal in mind: March Madness. Getting Towson there for the first time since '91. It's the biggest goal for their leading scorer, Nicholas Timberlake. He's been through a lot with injuries and lost seasons, and this would be the perfect college ending for the 24-year-old.
It's been a lot of up and downs. First year I got hurt. Second year I got hurt right before the season. So it wasn't until my junior year that I actually had a full year. Just because COVID happened the next year. So getting 2 full seasons, winning the regular season in 1, and then coming in 3rd and hopefully make March Madness in the last season would be awesome. But being here has meant the world. Wouldn't trade it for anything.
To get here at Towson with Coach Scarry and to stick here through all those ups and downs, most of it completely out of your control, what has that mental process been like?
Oh, it's been a lot of process. Just the idea of not knowing what was happening during COVID. We practiced one day, and then the next day someone would pop up positive and we couldn't play a game. We only played 16 that year, so that was brutal. And then just the idea of injuries, getting over that. I was never hurt in high school, so my first year I get to college and I'm starting, and then all of a sudden 9 games later I have a fracture in my foot and I have to shut it down the rest of the year. So that was a lot. I was in a dark place, not really a dark place, but like it stunk because I couldn't play, and it was the only thing I loved to do. And then I'm away from my parents, so that whole process of just being alone during it was kind of a lot, but I got over it.
What's been the driving force this season? Because I know every year there's been jumps and health has played into it, but this season in particular, this is your team, you're the guy.
Yeah, I mean, with 3 guys on the team right now who are first team and then the recruits coming in, where a lot of help